Hello everybody, welcome back. Let's have a look at XRP then, shall we? So we've not really focused on XRP for a little while, so it's time to have a little look now and work out what's going on, what we expect. So overall, it's been a while, but I've made a video, it's got to be over a year ago now, where we're basically anticipating a lot of the moves that we've actually received. So going into this accumulation phase over here, getting our original pump, reaccumulate over here, getting another pump. This is all part of the plan, I suppose. Getting another pump up here is all part of the plan. The overall picture, though, is to buy here and leave the trade and let it ride. Now, every time I make those videos, obviously the XRP army are very happy to see that because it's reassuring to them. And then the people who don't like XRP tell me that I'm completely wrong. Two very emotional sides of the camp basically flood onto my YouTube channel, which are, they're never normally there because I make videos about other things, other coins and stuff. But yeah, always gets a decent emotional response, I have to say. But the overall picture was to have bought down here. But every time there's a pump, people then start to get attracted to the channel, and they ask me, I get people on my Telegram asking me, should I buy XRP? Is it too late to buy XRP? Should I buy? At the end of the day, I mean, it's not that you've missed out on the trade. And I say it a few times, especially when I do my live streams, because we talk about XRP from time to time. XRP always gives you another opportunity, but the opportunity isn't while it's going up. That's not the opportunity. The opportunity is after the pump has happened and it cools down, and pretty much always comes down to that 200 exponential, and then pumps up again, and then this was accentuated by the FUD down to the 200 exponential, and then this big pump up here might sound unreasonable, and again, this is where I'm preempting the emotional response from both sides of the XRP camp, is that we will come back down at some point to the 200 exponential, wherever that might be at the time. So at the moment, that's coming all the way down to 58 cents. That could be 60 cents, it could be 65 cents. Every day that we're above it gives this moving average chance to move up, and I would expect that XRP does come down to there at some point. And it always seems unrealistic when we have these pumps, because again, this pump doesn't look big, but it was when when I first started talking about the accumulation phase, which is down here, and we get our pumps. We could call this bit here a bit more of a safe entry point. I think this is the majority of where my entry point actually was, down here, but it was between 20 and 25 cents. Yeah, we had a nice pump of 68%. Now, most people at the time wrote XRP off as an absolutely dead asset, completely dead coin, never going to pump, and then it does do that. Then it comes back down to test the 200 exponential. There's a little dip behind it, but basically reaccumulates on that 200 exponential. The last time we touched the 200 exponential before we launched, that was a 226% move, then came back down to that zone. We reclaimed it over here, even came down to test it over here. So that was the last time we tested the 200 exponential, and then from there we moved. How far was this one? That was a 442% move, so getting more aggressive each time, way more aggressive with each one of these pumps. Again, it all plays into the original analysis I did before any of these pumps took place, which was that there's a market cycle in play. The market cycle is going to likely play out as intended, which means that this year, towards the end of this year, is where we're going to see the biggest pumps. Now, one thing I've noted with XRP is that, since I made the original video about what my expectations are for XRP, and you could try and narrow it down to a period of months based upon its previous cycle, it's all happened a little earlier than anticipated. So this pump, I suppose I was expecting something like this quite early anyway, because this wasn't massive, but it was the first pump outside of the original accumulation zone. So when the consolidation ended, we went into accumulation. We were basically waiting for a pump, and we got one, and it was, like I say, it was about 60-something%, wasn't it? It was this one that really took me by surprise, really, because I wasn't expecting an actual pump until about May, and obviously we're not even in May yet, and since we've not even been in May, we've had 1 and 2 big pumps. I wasn't expecting any of those until May or after, and that's always been my expectation. After May should give XRP the room to move, which I still believe in, and a lot of that expectation was based on a much larger term time frame, which we'll have a look on TradingView now. So we'll just move away from this. And again, XRP on the weekly over here does tell us that it doesn't like to be outside of the Bollinger Band, nor does any chart like to be outside of a Bollinger Band, and so yeah, an aggressive pullback is likely to kick in, and the 20 weekly at the moment coming in at around about 56 cents, so similar to that 200 exponential, wherever that is at the time. It's about 56 cents or so, wasn't it? 57, 58. So there's not much between it. So there is a quite a good argument to suggest that we will come down to those levels over time. And again, they're moving averages. They're moving up. They're all moving up. So I'm not saying we're going to come down to that exact penny or that exact cent. So let's have a look at some of these charts. So this is one chart that we've been using to mark out significant areas of support and resistance, and a giant accumulation zone during this area down here, this big red Fibonacci blood cellar area. Now again, we've got good moving averages crossing over here. This is a weekly golden cross. Really nice to see that. Again, normally you'd expect a golden cross to be dumped down into anyway. If we were to dump down to that level, that comes in at 40 cents. So pretty unrealistic, but I'm not going to say that's out of the question. We also are currently above the larger accumulation zone on this chart. Okay, so this is Bitstamps, different to the one I'm going to bring up in a minute, which is the full market cycle for XRP. We're going to look at that, and again, it's something we're just going to look at and touch on. And again, when we're marking things down to the penny, they're not going to match out because XRP, in 2014 was a very different market cap to XRP is now. But the market cycle is still intact, in my opinion, and will likely end this year with a new all-time high. And we can speculate as to where that will be, but a new all-time high is a new all-time high, obviously. So yeah, every day that we spend above on this chart, this Fibonacci retracement tool comes down to 87 cents. Between 86 and 87 is basically the what we would like to see in the most bullish scenario being held above. Coming back down into this zone is not the worst thing in the world, but the most bullish area for it to remain above would be 86 cent, still not retracing fully back into what is the overall giant accumulation zone. We obviously had an accumulation zone down here. This is the best place to have bought it, but also you could argue any of this area here is actually a good area to buy it. I know that sounds ridiculous, maybe not as ridiculous now as it sounded when I said it 6 months or a year ago, as we are now above it. But back then when I said this is all one giant accumulation zone, it did sound ridiculous because it's an enormous area to think about buying blindly, here or down here. Obviously there's a massive difference in buying there, but it is technically all an accumulation zone. So it looks a little bit more like an accumulation zone now that we see that these big moves are possible with XRP. Let's go to this chart now. So again, these aren't matching out correctly because they're different prices, different charts. So the all-time high on this chart was actually $3.57. The all-time high on this chart was $3.32. So the prices of these fibs are going to be different, and you can see on this one we actually wicked below this fib because the prices are different, because the charts are different. And you're going to get different reads on different charts when something goes parabolic so fast. There's going to be a difference in price. All charts are going to be the same. The only reason we're using this one is because it's got a much larger history. We can have a look at it here on the logarithmic scale. It's not something I often would use, but I wanted to show it to you as an example of how this could perform as we move into the next phase of bull market, or the next phase of XRP's market cycle. So this was the very first parabolic high that we ever had. So that I'm not really going to talk about that, to be honest with you. We are going to talk about this wick. So from that wick to the top, that was a 9. Well, it's only a 10x. I suppose it's only a 10x. This does sound crazy, but it is a 10x in a time where 10x is, and altcoins really didn't exist. And then a massive retracement for a very long period of time, all the way down to, I suppose, so we could call it down there, 87% retracement. But we're looking at the time here. That was 826 days. That's the best part of 2.5 years there of consolidation. Now, XRP has a 4-year cycle, or it would appear to have a 4-year cycle, where it goes up for a very short space of time, very aggressively in this very first parabolic move up here, consolidation thereafter, and then again something that we've recently seen in 2017, a very fast, large massive move up, to be honest with you, with a consolidation down into an accumulation, which appears to now have broken officially from the giant accumulation. Obviously, we were clever enough to get in at the lower accumulation. So hopefully you're sticking with me on this, all right? So that you're sticking with me. So what we're really thinking about is this going to continue? Is this market cycle going to continue, and what are we expecting from it? So this here, again, logarithmic doesn't give you it's a bit deceptive, but the very first parabolic move up here to May 2017 from the absolute low was a massive move. And again, we've got to bear in mind that market caps were different, so moves were way more aggressive back here, way more aggressive. So from the absolute low to the absolute top, it's getting close to 100x there. So massive move. I would argue, if you think about it, so this is March to May. This is where was the moves really beginning? So I suppose January to April, so a little bit further. But like I say, this is where I was saying things are happening sooner than they did previously. And you'll get this with any market cycle. You can't pin it down to the day. They give you a rough idea of how things are going to play out as a full cycle is concerned. So what we had here was we had a consolidation after the parabolic high, the very first parabolic high, which was a parabolic high. I know it doesn't look like it now, but it was. And then a giant consolidation for about 2.5 years. Then I suppose the consolidation ended, smaller period of accumulation, massive rally up, and essentially ended up being sold off into. So what did this get sold off into? To the tune of 71%. All right, 71% from the top down to the bottom before it finished its market cycle. We'll just measure it from the very last wick there, and that was 1,531% of a very short space of time, literally just a few weeks, really, at the very end of the market cycle. So we could be looking here at this zone here. This is kind of what we're expecting. And again, you'll have to watch my my original market cycle video if you're bothered about it. And it's interesting to look back on it now, because I was anticipating these moves before they happened. Before we even had any actual pump, we were talking about all of this way before any of these pumps were happening, before XRP was fashionable. Again, it went into fashion again, didn't it, when it started to pump? That's always the case. People love things when they pump. People aren't interested if they don't pump. They fail to see the bigger picture as to what actually, how do you make a 10x? How do you make a 100x? How do you even double your money? You don't buy generally on an aggressive uptrend. You buy before the uptrend and you get out, on the way up, or you get out at the very end. It depends what your strategy is, and for me it's all about getting out at the very end on this token. Not particularly interested in trading every last little piece of it, but there are so many questions that get sent to me through Telegram and on YouTube about this that I do have to sometimes update these videos and just explain it. So I think this is the first time I've updated it since we had this massive run recently. So 71% retracement, wasn't it, from this fake out? Well, it's not a fake out. It was a very good move in itself, and it did hold a large amount of its value since coming out from this zone. But it was still a 71% retracement from the top down to where it next launched. So if we think about that in terms of where we are right now, and we measure this peak, where could we possibly come down to? All right, so 70, we'll give it 70% retracement, comes in at currently around about 57. So it's roughly around that level, isn't it? That rough level, 57 or so. And I'm not going to say that this is going to play out to the exact way that it has done in the past, but it's interesting to note how, especially for me, looking back at the things I was saying before any of it happened, that we were going to get a fake out in this, and we are going to get sold into, after that happened. So we are looking at, in my opinion, the fake out, which I kind of predicted to happen around about May, but obviously these happened a little bit earlier than that. And so if we think about that in terms of, all right, we had a parabolic high, 2.5 year downtrend, fake out, retraced to 71%, and then parabolic high, and then we had a 2.5 year, best part of about 2.5 year downtrend into accumulation, fake out, come back down to, let's just call it 70%. So let's just go back to the chart here, okay? So 51 cent 57 cent it was referring to, if we were to retrace to the same extent that we did on the last fake out that happened in the last cycle. And again, these are rough figures, they're rough figures. If we think about that, where that's coming down to here, this is about 57 cent down here at the 200 exponential. It's also on the 20 weekly, it's about 57 cent. There's a lot of reasons to think that XRP is going to make it back down to there again. And again, you know, let's just think about this in terms of, and put it into context, right? Massive launch up, 70% move back down after a fake out, finishing off the end of the year with the actual parabolic move. So this is my expectations, and again, you know, I don't have a crystal ball, but you will if you really are interested, or if you want to criticize me about any of this, it has all been mapped out prior to any of these big moves taking place. The only thing that's been inaccurate so far is the exact month that it's happened at. It's so far everything that I've said seems to have been working out perfectly, and I would argue that a chart that like XRP, which seems to be working perfectly, should give us a perfect enough entry point, or in terms of behavior, moving averages, a certain amount of retracements from parabolic highs. It's the behavior that we're studying here, and the behavior would suggest that, you know, we are likely to come down to wherever the moving average is, the 200 exponential is, or maybe even, you know, at best, if this is a little higher, the 20 weekly. They might end up both being more or less at the same place, but they both fit in very nicely to the way that this market cycle is behaving, and it's very encouraging for the long term, because it would suggest that, you know, the market cycle is still in play, and it's actually playing out exactly as it did previously, almost completely exactly the same. And the only thing that's slightly different is obviously the amount of percentages that it moves, but that's because the market cap was a lot smaller back then. That lends itself to much more bigger aggressive moves. However, you know, with a large market cap like it's got already, it's still very capable of doing enormous moves anyway, which is very reassuring. When people often say, "Oh, XRP can't make it to that because it's got so many tokens," and blah, you will be surprised at what could possibly happen to this token when it comes to price at the end. Now, I'm not one of those moon boys that's going to call for $100 XRP. That's not what I'm here to say. We're talking about structure, we're talking about behavior, we're talking about when's our next entry point. If there is another opportunity to get in, where would you do it? And I would honestly say, judging on the entire market history of this token, playing out exactly as we intended, which suggests that there is going to be some more downside to this token before some more upside to this token. And if anyone ever really wanted to get involved in XRP, the place to do it would be around about that 200 exponential. It will be revisited just like it does on a bull market, in a bear market. We came up, we get rejected from it, come up rejected from it. Bit of a fake out here, come down, rejected from it, rejected from it. Bit of a fake out here, rejected from it, and then reclaim it. And now what happens is we come up, we get supported from it, come up, well, technically supported from it, come all the way up. I would expect to see that again. So this is fine. It's all perfectly fine. Like I say, it might not be fine for you if you're holding on to this, especially from a higher level, and it's going to, you know, and I'm no financial advisor, so I'm not saying sell and buy down here. I'm giving you an overall picture of the market cycle, the behavior of this token, the behavior of this coin. It's one of the reasons I've always focused on it, because I've believed that it's had a very strong market cycle, chart history, strong behavior, and we're looking for it to all play out all over again. And again, for me, it's okay to just watch these things take place, because my entry point was down here. So I'm okay to watch it go up and down, because my trade was simply a matter of buying here and allowing the whole thing to play out. All these ups and all these downs, they're fun to watch. It's just noise to me, and it's basically a one trade deal, entry point and exit point, and the exit point will be determined most likely on the next significant massive pump towards the end of this year. We're talking fourth quarter kind of area. Again, a lot of this is happening sooner than I anticipated by a matter of a month or two. So to say that, oh well, last time it happened in December, has to happen in December again? No, not really. It's all about, I suppose, the behavior of this token, and maybe on the next massive big pump would likely be the absolute top of this market cycle. But I still expect, you know, a further downside now, and then that next big peak to happen pretty much in the fourth quarter. Anyway, overall, that's pretty much all I've got to say on it. So no more questions about XRP, please. Everything's playing out as expected. Everything's working to plan. And yeah, if there is another entry point for anybody that ever wanted to get involved in this token, it just requires a bit of patience, and you just got to hold off and wait for that appropriate entry point. Trading a lot of the time requires patience and discipline. And yeah, there's no need to jump in on something and FOMO technically. FOMO. You do not want to FOMO into XRP. You want to play the long game. You want to play it safe, and you want to look at what's happened. And hopefully, this overview has showed you that, and given confidence to the people who are holding it, and given insight to the people who want to buy it. But again, do your own research. This is my research, and it continues to play out absolutely 100%. As intended. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.